get into like team by team, right? A lot of trends we're seeing interesting moves with the bullpen. Some teams are flourishing, others are falling by the wayside. What are some big picture takeaways up to this point in the playoffs for you?
I think it's something we've talked about before, that you're roster constructing for two different kinds of seasons. One is the long haul of 162, and the other one is this postseason sprints, or a little bit of a modified sprint. It's kind of like it's not a 100-yard dash. It's more like an 800, because you gotta persevere through it. It's a pretty lengthy postseason when you tally it all up. So, and some of these clubs are showing that they're built to withstand 162, and then in a truncated series where the magnifying glass gets put on defense, base running, contact ability, like those kinds of things get put at a premium, and the roster holes show up to a certain extent. The Yankees stand out to me from that standpoint, right? Again, right? Like there was some of this last year, even though they made it to all the way to the World Series last year. So, but that you could build an offensive juggernaut that could so far and away lead all of baseball offensively throughout the course of the year, and then pretty much fall short convincingly, right? Like the Blue Jays handed them a pretty convincing series loss, and some of their holes were pretty glaring in the postseason. But it just shows that you have to build it for the longer 180 games plus kind of season, and that's not an easy thing. I thought the Phillies were built to withstand the longer run, but then sometimes you also just run into a team that's better. Even if you're very good, you run into a team that's better. To me, like the Dodgers, it's the reason I can never not have the Dodgers as favorites, and it's showing in this postseason run that they're able to withstand postseason baseball after performing really well over 162, and that's why I think you see them where they're at. I thought the Phillies were going to be a really tough matchup for them, but in reality, it was another pretty convincing series win, regardless of how that one game ended. But big picture takeaways is that the little things show up. The defense shows up. The pitching shows up. The reliever matchups show up. And any small mistake or error over the course of the execution of the game, and those things really get magnified and could cost you series. And so that's what I'm seeing. Like some teams are built for 162, and some teams are built to kind of push past that. And the one thing that really stands out to me as well is the Blue Jays. I feel like we consistently didn't give the Blue Jays, maybe the entire MLB didn't give the Blue Jays enough credit throughout the course of the year. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they weren't there last year, and they're not the immediate name that comes to mind in the AL East. But right now, it's kind of hard to argue against them, right? They're just playing really, really good baseball. And even though they're down 1-0 in this CS series, but they really stood out to me in how they handled the Yankees, how they sprinted to a division title, and how they handled the Yankees. So those are a few big picture takeaways.
You mentioned situational baseball, two of the teams you talked about. The Yankees last year, that was kind of the story of their exit amongst everything else. The Philadelphia Phillies, we ever get a final story? Was that did you just lose track of the outs? Like what happened there on that final play with the Phillies and trying to throw home instead of to first? I thought he just lost track of the outs, but I don't know if that was ever explained afterwards or what sense you got of it.
Sometimes the moment gets really big. And this is where I go back to the playoff clubs that are constructed with a lot of like experienced postseason players, and the Phillies were. But in that moment, Kirkering was not necessarily, right? And I thought that showed up. I think the deer in the headlights, analogy makes sense to me here, and I think unfortunately, I think he just panicked in that moment. I think it's a tough way to learn a lesson, but I think, hopefully he gets to the other side of this, because that's the kind of error that could stick around with you for a long time. But that said, I didn't see that the Phillies lost the series because of that, right? Like the Phillies lost the series because the Dodgers were a better team for the postseason ball. And that's with a struggling Ohtani. They still are able to persevere and win. And they played better when the moment mattered. And I thought the Phillies just came up short when the moments mattered the most. It's interesting that we're seeing so many offensively driven teams, and all of a sudden in the postseason, everybody's struggling to score. I think that it kind of puts a premium on matchup baseball, how good pitching is, how good your relievers are. Like you're not really seeing, like garbage time doesn't exist in the postseason. You're not seeing the fluffy ends of your roster. Every roster spot is at a premium. If you're putting somebody on your 13 position players and in your 13 pitchers, it's because they have a significant purpose and a targeted use case for them to be on that roster. There's no fluff to any of those rosters, including emergency base runners, right? So I took a long-winded way to answer the one question, but that's what showed up to me quite a bit here.
And guys that aren't even part of your team that really got you there, like you Savage for the Blue Jays, obviously a huge talent, and that talent moving to the forefront real quick here in the postseason. We'll get to that